My name is Pamela Tanner Boll, and I am a filmmaker, and we are here to discuss the last film that we made called To Which We Belong. And we are following up with two of the folks who were in our film, which was launched in 2021, Meagan and Maloi, who are from Barney Creek Ranch in Montana in the Paradise Valley. Maloi is Megan's daughter. And we're here to talk to them about what they've been up to since we last met up with them back in, it's been 2019. So why don't we start with you, Malloy? Back then you were a very young girl, and now just tell us about what you've been up to. I hear there's some sheep involved.
Yeah. Well, my flock of sheep has grown to close to 40 now, and I'm hoping to hit 50 by my senior year. I'm a junior in high school, getting ready for college and stuff. So a lot has happened since like middle school.
The last time we saw you, you had just written a book, Don't Call It Dirt.
Yep, I did. A coloring book I used to buy my first 5 lambs. Since then my flock has grown, but I've been working on other projects like that, like another coloring book with Nicole Masters. Um, so yeah, man, a lot of stuff has happened, but yeah.
That's so great. Can you tell us just a little bit about how having a flock of nearly 40 sheep is how you're managing those sheep so that it's regenerating the soils?
Yeah, I'd love to. So in the summers, I'm moving the sheep every day, if not every other day,
Mhm.
using two poly wires and just regular old fence posts. I don't use netting. And then in the fall, winter, and spring, I'm in school, and so I'm moving the sheep after school amongst work and homework, so it gets a little busy, but yeah, it rotational grazing and small paddocks and giving our grass a lot of rest is really our big deal.
Perhaps you can just give us a line or two for people who have not seen the film about why it matters that you move your sheep every day or every couple of days. How does that regenerate the soil?
Well, by giving the land time to rest, we allow it to recover and store carbon while our animals are away. And then by the time we come back around, that grass is recovered and ready to take on livestock again and letting other grass around our place, get better. And that puts carbon back into the ground.
So that is actually the theme of our film, learning how to manage our lands around the world so that we can recover carbon, so we can draw down carbon from the sky into the ground. And so Malloy is one of the practitioners
Exactly.
at a very young age of, are you 17 now?
Yep, 17.
17 years old. She's a second generation regenerative rancher, although she's a fourth or fifth generation rancher.
Fifth.
Fifth generation,
Fifth.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Malloy. Meagan, let's talk about what you've been up to. It's been kind of a journey since I last saw you. Back then, you were working with Nicole Masters, who's a soil scientist of some renown. And Nicole is a someone who can really get down in the dirt, haha, and show ranchers and farmers how to restore the microbial life of that soil. And back when we first met you, you were just learning about this. And now, according to my information, you are now teaching with Nicole Masters. So perhaps you can start there and tell us what that's about. Who are you teaching, and what's the name of the program? Is Create, if I recall. You and Nicole started this. So tell us something about this and why you are involved in that.
Well, yeah, just right at the film, I started working with Nicole, and since then we've traveled from Australia to New Zealand to England and back, and then all over in the U.S. And then just again doing the farmer and rancher education. And we've also really ramped up a program called Create. And what Create is that it is people that are interested in coaching or consulting farmers and ranchers, and really training, I guess training's not the best word, but really walking alongside those people on the land and having them, show them how Nicole sees the land, and how that's a little bit different, what that microbiology is doing in your soil that's affecting the growth, and then again drawing down that carbon, what it's doing to your ecosystem, and how you as a human are in that ecosystem. You are an integral part of that. And then walking again alongside those farmers and ranchers about and talking a lot about management, and might not be a huge change, but little changes, and how can they get.
That's great. Again, for our folks who haven't yet seen To Which We Belong, which is a whole film about this topic of restoring the land so that we can both draw down more carbon, which is a good thing for the planet, but at the same time, it's a good thing for the soil. For folks who didn't see this, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about the methods that you're using and teaching ranchers compared to what you might consider more conventional ranching, just to give us an overview.
Yeah, a lot of we go through it all and Create. We really take deep dives into microbiology, but really with the management, and I can really speak to the grazing piece. In that course, we talk about viticulture, cropping / arable, all sorts of farming, orchards, every type of farming, but just specifically with the grazing, because it's what we do at Barney Creek Livestock. Really talking about the movement of those animals and adaptive management. So your management is adapting to how those animals are grazing, which is also in turn providing a lot of rest for those plants to recover, as Maloi had mentioned. But really getting people to see that it's not a silver bullet, it's not a set pattern of things, that you're really adapting with that ecosystem, and able to foster that, and sometimes really bring back some degraded land. By doing that, you're capturing every drop of water that you possibly can, because through that soil improvement and through increasing those aggregates in your soil, you're capturing water. So a lot of times, if we're talking to maybe grazers that are experiencing some drought, if we can really work with them on their management, they're able to see some of this stuff turn around on their land.
How does that work?
Using
how does drawing down carbon through photosynthesis with what's the plants that are on the ground, how does management change the amount of carbon that's drawn down, and how does that create more water holding capacity? Again, for folks who haven't seen the film.
Yeah, well,
we're talking basics here.
Yeah, no, it's great. And in my context, I'll really speak to those grazing animals and using that livestock as a workforce to do that. They do a lot of different things. But really the magic happens when you're really adaptively grazing those animals across the land. You're watching the land, you're really watching your plants. And when you're watching those plants, it sounds like it's a science, but once you get the hang of it, you're watching how those plants are growing and where they're at in their growth phase, which contributes to how they're capturing the sunbeams, right? It's just basic. And Maloi, I want you to chime in, because she's actually competing this year in speech and debate on saving the grasslands. So that's just really bringing that down, those sugars down into the roots and into that microbiology, so they can really be loose and mobile down there and moving things. So when you're paying attention to what you're doing above ground, and you're not compacting the soil, but it can breathe, those roots are able to grow and get down. That's really how we're going to really suck down that carbon, because plants need the carbon to grow. All this talk about carbon's bad. Hey, it's not bad. We actually want it, and we want it in the ground, where it belongs, so we can grow these grasslands again.
And again, sort of basic information, because people continually ask, even though they've seen the film in some cases, you said something, carbon isn't bad.
Yeah.
Perhaps we could say it's in the wrong place.
Mhm.
It's escaped into the atmosphere where it creates a greenhouse impact effect.
That's right.
So our planet gets warmer than it should, which causes some drying out of the soils. So Maloi, perhaps you can answer this question. How does changing the way you manage your sheep or your cattle, whatever, make change that problem, fix that problem?
Well, I hate to go back to something I already said, but that rest really allows those plants to grow back. So if you want to think about it pretty basically, I just in the research I've done for my speech and debate speech at least, the more like area you have on a plant, the more area it has to suck carbon down and extend its roots into the soil, which also speaks to the water part. With the roots being as deep as they are, if it hasn't rained in a long time, those roots are going to be able to reach water much further down and keep growing and keep sucking carbon back into the ground where it belongs. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain in such simple terms, but I think it's pretty well the more grass you have, the more carbon you're going to suck down, really.
So that's a perfect exclamation. So the point is, if I can summarize, again, you have animals. If you bunch them together, watch how much they graze, and then move them to a new pasture when there's like a perfect place for the grass to be munched down, right? You want to keep watch on how much that is. You don't want them to overgraze and you don't want them to undergraze. Is that a good way of explaining it?
Yeah, and I think that really depends on your context because at specific times of the year I might graze my grass down quite a bit more. But at other times I might want to not even touch it. So I think it's just a context thing, and when to graze it, when not to graze it is something you just learn and you can adapt with, like my mom was saying.
You can change it up depending on the sun exposure and if it's been cloudy or you haven't had any rain for a long time. But
Totally.
essentially, the carbon brings water. Is that a fair statement? Carbon in the soil brings
Yeah, I
water.
don't think it's a bad statement at all.
Mhm. Meagan, there's another interesting thing that you all have done, and that's win an amazing award, the Aldo Leopold Conservation Award for Montana.
Yes. Yep.
Perhaps you could speak about that.
Well, it's hard. Pete was the baller in the movie, but wow, this award meant so much to us and was just such a living in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem and being able to really say we're doing the absolute best we can there in a really different model just really blew our socks off. We were so excited. We had over 100 people this summer on the tour just to be able to, we included all of our leases. So we were able to, Nicole came along, which was quite handy. So they really had such a treat that day to see what we were doing, to see some places that are at the very beginning, they're very degraded, to then look at something where you guys were in the movie was filmed at the Barney Creek lease on the Jordan Ranch. Just really able to show how the things that we're doing work, and almost just an instant, timeline and instant feedback, just a couple of miles away from each other. That was such an honor. Sand County invited us to go to the national symposium to talk. So we're looking into that. And I just would love to meet a lot of people that are right where we're at and just really making a difference and doing the best we can.
That's awesome. Now tell us a little bit about what you're teaching, who you're teaching with the program with Nicole Masters, which is called Create, correct?
Yep, it's called Create Coaching Program, and it's on our website. We coach about anybody that that has got some soil background. That's sort of our first, have to have a pretty good background in that soils knowledge. We've got some agronomists. We've got a lot of educators,
Mhm.
just on-farm educators. We had an extension agent that came on and did create, and then has since left extension, is now working with Gabe Brown. So that was just such an honor to see those two worlds unite,
Yeah.
and cross over, as we should be. But it's what we promote, what we believe in as being regenerative. Yeah, just anybody really that wants to coach or consult is more of a common term. But where we divide the line is that you're really on a journey with that farmer or rancher, and you're asking more questions and you're providing silver bullets and answers, because as soon as we step away, they're managing. So we just do the best things possible to set them up, to really make a transformation in their management.
Mhm.
So we cover everything from a soil test to animal health and grazing. Again, just in my context, but if it's farming or viticulture, we've had several viticulture people on. But just really, again, trying to walk with those producers and learn from each other, and to help their operation transform, in terms of profitability and also on the land.
So is it fair to summarize by saying that regenerative grazing or viticulture has to do with having more plants in the ground year round? Number one. Is that fair?
I don't, with viticulture, I don't know. I know they have certain vine standards. So
Mm.
I wish Felix were here. He's one of our coaches. He's a viticulturist, who'd be able to speak to that. I really think it comes down to the soil and the microbiology.
But
And
in order to increase the microbiology and the working of those microbes in the soil, you need to have photosynthesis happening.
Yep.
Let's go back to basics, because I
Yep.
want audiences who are not necessarily soil specialists to understand this. And photosynthesis is the plants drawing down the CO2 from the atmosphere into the plant so that it grows, and exuding the excess carbon sugars, if you will, into
Yep.
into the soil, so the microbial life is fed. Correct? Is that a
That
good way
is
of
correct.
summarizing?
But again, I'm not gonna. I do not know vines, and
Yeah. All right. Well, it's
I
interesting.
feel bad.
No, please don't. I didn't mean to put
Everything
you on
else,
the
I
spot.
totally.
Yeah, it just seems to me it would make sense that
Yeah.
in Vineland, if you will, that they would also perhaps be doing cover crops in between the vines.
And they are. Yep. They're
Okay,
doing
there you
a lot
go.
of.
That's all you have
Yep.
to say. That's all we
Yep.
have to
More
know,
leaves
right?
there. Yep.
Or
Yep.
plants.
Classic. Excellent interviewer. Way to get me there. But yeah, that is true, and they are doing all sorts of that stuff. And Felix is as well on the vineyards that he works on, so I do know that for a fact. And he even got a couple sheep inspired from Maloi, so he's doing that as well.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. We're using every tool we can to create more microbial life in the soil,
Yeah.
drawing
Yeah.
down that carbon, which
Yep.
increases the water holding capacity of the soils,
Yep.
no matter where you are. Now, one last question. You're doing some work in England?
Yes. Yep.
Tell me about that. Tell us all about that.
That is just an amazing project.
Can you say the name of the
Althorpe.
project? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Althorpe Estate, which is the ancestral home of Princess Diana and her brother Charles Spencer. So that family invited Nicole, to come, and they're doing all sorts of changes and transformations on their estate. And then, once Nicole shows up and she starts introducing all sorts of new ideas, then she got to talking with Lady Spencer, and Lady Spencer says, I really want to bring this create training to England. How can we do that? And if you haven't met Lady Spencer, she's a force, and before you know it, we're on a plane. So it has been absolutely amazing and fascinating. And I will say, with every create training we've done, this is the third course we've done, and it's a 30-week course. We always have the first week, we have a To Which We Belong viewing night. And so all those students watch that. They always come with lots of questions. They know a lot of the people now, which is fascinating. We were going to have a create course in Australia, but we ended up canceling. But a gentleman that was going to that course from Japan has shown this film over 300 times in Japan and has translated Nicole's book into Japanese. And he just flew last week to come and visit. So he got to meet Maloi and see Pete's mustache. And so now with this England project, we've got 24 coaches, British. A majority of them are from the UK. There's a woman from Kenya. There are 2 gentlemen from Portugal. There's a gentleman from Estonia. And oh, they're going to be upset. I might be leaving someone out. But it's happening. And because of To Which We Belong, it seemed like it was already, people knew about it, but because of this film, they didn't really. My sister watched it and she was like, now I get what you're talking about. So I'm constantly referring, like, if you don't understand, this film breaks it down to where now you can get it. This is what's happening. So I just want to say thank you for that. I think that it has reached so many people and it has made sense with zero political agenda. It was fantastic.
Our distributor said that when we first went to find a distributor. He said, you know what I love about this film? You got blue states, you got red people, you got blue people, and nobody cares. It's all about regenerating the land so that it's more productive, so that there are fewer inputs necessary for non-farmers and ranchers. That means you don't have to put as much fertilizer, hopefully none eventually. And also no insecticides. Why? Because if you have healthy soil, you have healthy plants and the insects don't go there.
Yeah.
And it's all about this. And it's a way to, find common ground, but between peoples who might very well have differences of opinion about a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Common ground. And by that, I mean, if we can restore the health of our soils around the world, we're on a good path to draw down enough carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to make a huge difference. Our big goal as a planet is to keep below 2% centigrade of heat.
Yep.
And if we can restore our agricultural lands, even by adding just 2% of carbon to those soils, according to Ratan Lal, who's the grandfather of soil science. He's got a carbon institute out of Ohio State. He has said that will change that whole whole problem, just 2%.
Well, I think that's what's so, again, not just because I work with Nicole, but I really believe it. Getting these coaches out on the ground, when she came up with this concept, she was like, I am one person. I can't I will not live forever. So how do I create something from an abundant mindset to really get this stuff going? And we've done it. We're on to big, big things. And every student that goes through this course is just changed for the common good. It is amazing. And they're learning about biologicals and about amendments and how that mixes with the soil, like the whole system, not just, that silver bullet. And I think that's really what farmers and ranchers are screaming for, and if the consumer can support that, man, we're going to be in a really good spot. We're going to hit that too.
So let's look at that. How do you, first of all, I want everybody to know your ranch and, that you have, but you're not going too far out of your neighborhood selling beef, correct? You're still sort of concentrating on the Paradise Valley for your...
Yep, that's our motto. Just keeping it, feeding local, feeding our community. That's our community piece as part of our regeneration.
So how can folks who are not ranchers support this work?
Well, you can go online and buy what we call bulk beef, and also Maloi's lamb. So we'll sell those as a quarter, a half, or a whole. However, my friend and I just started what we call the Meetup, and it's a local food hub. And we're on Instagram, but it's MEAT, the Meetup. And you can order once a week from us and we'll fill a box. So if you don't want to go buy a freezer, we can fit what you want. You pick it out, you buy it, you come pick it up, but we'll box it for you.
That we'd go to Barney Creek Ranch. How would we find that online?
Yep, you can go to our website or
Which
go to the
is-
Oh, sorry, come on, Meagan. Barney Creek Livestock.
Okay.
www.barneycreek.com.
Okay.
That's
What
our
about
website.
what about your sheep website? Maloi.
Same deal,
All right.
same place.
Great. Okay. Well, this is exciting. I'm so happy. And this Create program sounds absolutely what is needed right now. A lot of people are learning how to ranch and farm in a very different way. The average person thinks that it's all natural all the time, and it hasn't been, to be honest. Our ranching systems have changed enormously, and this is a way to get back to respecting natural systems and drawing down carbon instead of adding more fertilizer or feeding the cattle and maybe even the sheep in enclosures, which aren't the best for those animals, and it certainly isn't the best for humans. So thank you so much. I'm very
Yeah.
happy to catch up with you both and say hi to your dad, Maloi, and your
Oh,
husband,
I will.
Meagan. Pete's great guy. We're sorry we couldn't meet up with him this time, but maybe next time.
Yes, for sure. And it has been awesome. And I just want to know when you're going to come visit again. Let's go.
All right. Thank you so much. This is Pamela Boll from To Which We Belong, which is about restoring the lands around the world so that we can draw down more carbon and at the same time grow more nutritious food and support the amazing people who are growing our food for us. So thank you, Maloi, and thank you, Meagan. You're doing you're stellar, both of you. So's Pete.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.